We don't want any tech. Okay, awesome. What's up, Hacksters? It is MCU Monday, and I am thrilled to announce that we have actually got our own thing to announce this week. This has been kept up under wraps for about an age and a half because I've been testing it, and we've got some restrictions based on IP and HIPAA constraints, but now we can actually make the announcement, and we're about to open this up for a limited beta. So, listen up. This is the HackJack. It comes with NeoSound, which is a new type of bone conduction audio that you might be familiar with, except for that instead of placing something over your ears, it's actually implanted into your head. I hope you can see that, because I can't see the back of my head yet. This is something that I've kind of dreamt of for ages, and I think a lot of other people are going to be excited about as well. So let's take a look at what it involves exactly. As the article mentions, this hooks up with my phone, and I can listen to music, I can do all my usual, like, talking on the phone kind of stuff, as well as being able to download things like Hackster projects directly into my brain. I know this sounds incredible, and it really is. Basically, this helps accelerate the learning experience by about 1 million factors, because not only can you download projects and instantly have that information available to your brain, but you can also download things like physical experiences, and I'll get to that in a second. This is a live Q&A, so I encourage you to ask questions. I have been messing around with trying to build brain augmenting devices for a while now. If you're curious about past work, for example, I built this little neurocopter that's controlled by a NeuroSky MindFlex. It's not very impressive there because it was too heavy to take off from the table with the battery attached. But it was a cool project nonetheless. I've done some things like presented about mind-altering gadgets at Nerd Night and at Body Hacks. Both of these like sort of nerdy conferences, and we'll talk about that in a second if people are interested. Also, I'm not the first person to come up with this idea. So, you know, Elon Musk's company Neuralink, you know, you may have ethical concerns about things like this, and we want to do it the right way. If you're already familiar with this company, you might have some hang-ups based on who's doing it. I think it's very important that we involve the community in things like this and not just have people who are already at the top making decisions about the future of humanity. So, hence the HackJack. So this on the tech side, we've got a DSP chip, we've got an ARM Cortex-M0 Morpheus controller, a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, and NeoSound audio tech, which is something that we developed in-house. This is part of the reason that we can't make it totally open source yet, because while we do want to be totally open source, obviously, and we want that to come in maybe V3, but for now, there are concerns with IP, obviously, but also we want to do a lot of testing before we actually release this into the wild and make sure that it's ready to go, and there are good protocols in place both for safe installation and for making sure that the device itself is secure, especially before we make it totally wireless. So, sorry, not open source just yet, but soon. You can install AI assistants on it, which is super great. I said this broadcast was going to start at 11, and it started at noon instead, and that's something that I want to be able to fix by having something in my head that just organizes everything for me, because machines are good at that. Humans are not good at that. We can augment ourselves. I can listen to music and instantly learn practically anything. One of the drawbacks with that right now is that I have to be asleep while I do it, but hopefully we're going to change that as well. We have a lot of people asking how it's installed, and so I want to address that. It's similar to a lot of current implants in that you have these sort of biocompatible anchors that are installed along with the device and sort of hold it in place, and then they slowly dissolve as the body heals around it. So you end up with something that is essentially, for all intents and purposes, a part of your body, which does cause some problems sort of down the line when you want to upgrade it. We believe that you should be able to, you know, there's this right to repair thing. If it's in your head, you should be able to own it, and you don't own it if you can't modify it. So, more on that in a second, but yeah, the current version is not upgradable as is. It takes a lot of, I actually plan to get a later version, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain. But future versions, we want to have it be basically a bass jack that you would install, and then you'll have these sort of hot swappable inserts for things like Raspberry Pi and Arduino compatibility and stuff like that. Yeah, super cool. And you won't have to deal with everything that I'm going through right now in order to get that. The metal enclosure is hypoallergenic. Yeah. So V2 versus V1. This is V1. It's attached to my head right now, like I just mentioned, with the anchors and everything. And there is a port that goes inside. It's actually bigger than, this is the V2. And let me actually pull up for you a visualization. So this is technology. This is why we want the thing to be upgradable, because once we get past this stage with technology, I don't want my head to still be back in the past. Oh, come on. Well, in the meantime, let's take a look and see if anyone is posting questions yet. How is the implementation? Yeah, again, the implantation uses these anchors, and it's a pretty short process once we've done it a few times. Mine was the longest because it was the first, and so it's going to take a bit of wrangling. But in the future, actually, so you can see that this is the one that I have, and it has this sort of big, giant barrel, which is part of the whole jack assembly, right? And that is a huge pain. Also, it doesn't attach very well. So both to sort of ease with installation and to help make it more secure in the future, we hope to replace that with kind of a screw shape on the outside, and the inside will still be smooth, so you can plug stuff in really easily. But also, we're going to be integrating wireless as soon as we have the security stuff figured out on that end. So if you'll notice in V1, which is, yeah, again, the one that I've got, this is kind of an RCA coax type connector, and that was pretty good. It's got a lot of stability, but for future ones, we've got this new sort of connector that has blades or fins on it. This is the V2, and that basically increases the surface area with the plug and the jack, and it allows you to get way higher bandwidth. So instead of like having to go to sleep for a night, you can just take a sort of power nap and then, yeah, more on that, and wake up with a ton of new knowledge. So power jack, yeah. For future versions of this, V3 I'm thinking, we're going to be open sourcing it. So this is V1, this is V2, this is limited beta. Share with your friends if you want to get in on the limited beta, by the way. V3 is going to be open source, and what I'm really excited to develop for that is something that would basically be able to dispense neuromodulators, so I would be able to not drink caffeine, but instead be able to have it basically either caffeine or other things dispersed into my brain directly. And one of the cool things about that is that you can do not only, like, you can drink coffee, but then also automatically dispense L-theanine, for example, which is the thing that's in tea, but not in coffee. And the reason that you're more chilled out on tea is because you have this L-theanine as well, which helps relax you. So you'd be able to keep drinking your favorite beverages while at the same time enjoying the benefits of something that's healthier. Yeah, so again, with V2, we've got this higher surface area connection that's going to help with bandwidth. Also, it's got this smaller well, like I showed you. If you compare the old one, see how wide that is, versus the new one is much, much more slim. And also, we've got this hypoallergenic material. It took us a while to choose the right one, so future ones are going to have to be basically gold if we don't come out with a more flexible silicone maybe based material, because some people have allergies to common metals, and you have to use like precious metals like gold and silver in order to avert that. Obviously, that is something that we've implemented a little further down the line because of the expense of initial prototyping and the fact that I don't have that allergy. So, the HackJack specs include a normal input of 30 milliwatts, a maximum input of 100 milliwatts, no. I mean, you can read this for the specs, if you want it. The NeoSound tech, which again, that's one of the main reasons that we can't open source everything right now, is because of this IP that we have that we want to make sure is like top notch before we release it. There's a huge history of people using biohackers and disabled people and all kinds of other humans using implants in experimental art projects or to expand their capabilities or make their lives better. We were linked to Neil Harbison, who's someone that I've long admired, who created an implant for himself to be able to hear color, basically. He can't see color, and so he created this little camera implant that takes the color information from the world around him, translates that into an audio signal that he is familiar with, and he's able to recognize what color things are that way. And so he can do this, like, he can really pull off this sort of salmon and azure combination without having problems, because like he knows what color those things are, which is kind of amazing. We're inspired by all kinds of other things. Like, for example, you might have realized that the physical design is kind of inspired by the Matrix head jack. If you're not familiar, or if you're not aware, then yesterday was actually the 20-year anniversary of the Matrix movie coming out, so we thought it would be a perfect time to release this announcement. But also, there's this project by Hyphen Labs called Neurospeculative Afrofeminism, and they came out with a design for these electrodes that basically are sort of permanently attached to your head, and then they have these dreads attached, which are cables with jack plugs at the ends of them. I wish I could stay on this photo. At the ends of them, let's actually just view that. Yeah, so you've got these cables with these plugs at the ends of them that would attach to some kind of an EEG device. So you basically have these sort of permanent electrodes that are also a fashion accessory, and they've got a very similar kind of look to them, which is also a huge inspiration. There are ethics concerns from some people, not only, you know, for example, The Guardian asking about the ethics of Elon Musk's venture, and then also we got a question about security from this Blackroom security, I think her name is Tara on Twitter, who's interested in going for this, but is also curious about Metasploit, dynamic updating, and making sure that it's going to stay secure, and whether it can pair with your phone. So those are two kind of different questions. We're very focused on the security. So right now, there is some Bluetooth capability, but we're not releasing that yet. All the V2s are still going to have the wired interface, so you're going to have to use that jack. But it does have your higher surface area, so that's part of the reason that we wanted to increase that bandwidth. Part of that, have I gotten to this in the article yet? The experience transfer? Yeah, okay, cool. So, my favorite part about this is the experience transfer. Like Elon Musk, but cooler, basically. You know, there's this Neuralink technology where they're like, you can communicate directly brain to brain, but really all you're doing is sending sort of a simple signal. And people like Backyard Brains have done this thing where you can supposedly, you know, hook up sensors to one person's, like, premotor cortex, for example, read what they're doing with their muscles, and then use that to control someone else's muscles. If you put, for example, a TENS stimulation device on the other person. And that's totally a thing people have done, but no one's done this yet, where you actually record an experience that someone's going through and then replay it. And so you can use this not only for, you know, conceptual skills, but also things like cooking. There's all kinds of, where's this cooking bot I was linking to? Yeah, so Wired did this thing about, you know, how you've got this cooking robot that could replace chefs. Like, that's cool, right? If you're gonna have your billionaire Playboy mansion, you probably want a robot chef. But wouldn't it be even cooler if you could just download Emerald to your brain, and then you have all those skills, and you can instantly impress a date, or whoever, or just make yourself the most amazing food in the world. And it doesn't have to be super fancy stuff. It could be like, you know, cook like Jamie Oliver, making everyday things, but making them in an exquisite way. Like, there's so much that this enables. Not only that, but you have the physical skills of the chef as well. You are able to feel how they feel, to understand how an onion feels when it's being chopped correctly, how a knife feels when it's properly sharp, and how to do that. So part of the issue with that right now in V1 is that it takes some time, and this may not change, I don't know, it takes some time to acclimate to physical skills that you've downloaded. Even if you have the mental conceptual background for what you're trying to do, at the same time, you still need that muscle memory, and that's something that you basically have to build up by practice. And so, but after a few meals, it's way faster than watching a ton of YouTube videos and being like, is this how it's supposed to be? Is that how it's supposed to be? Your brain already knows how it's supposed to be. You know if you're doing it right. You might have to build up the right muscles and things, but your body will be able to do it. And that's just so cool. For example, things like Kung Fu. You can learn Kung Fu. Whoa. And again, we care a lot about safety, so we're making sure that we go through this with some experienced biohackers first. So people from the Dangerous Minds podcast have shown interest. We've got, I actually talked with Todd Huffman, who was one of the first people, where is this? Sorry. So many different, oh, here we go. Who was the first person to get a magnetic implant. And he's interested in trying this out. Totally into that. So if you're not familiar, people have been getting magnets and RFID chips and stuff embedded in their hands. This was the first magnetic implant in 2006, and it would be so cool to have him in the beta and just hear all the feedback that he has. If you haven't seen the cool stuff that Lee Borg is doing, they're doing some cool stuff where they've implanted, for example, a tritium glowing implant in their wrist, which is incredible. It definitely took me a while to sort of come around to the idea of implants, but this one is so functional that I think it'll totally change my life forever, basically. We are working on a $20 developer kit down the line. Once we open source this, it's going to be pretty incredible. And we do want actually to include some of that magnetic sensing. And we're looking at ways to do that with an implant that's based in your head, or maybe with peripheral implants that are based around your body. Once we develop this expertise, we're going to be able to branch out to so many other areas of the body and types of applications. So we really want to be a resource for people as this field is growing. It's all about open source. And yeah, so V3, which we're calling Trinity, is going to be completely wireless. For now, we still do need these plugs, but it'll be able to be so much more miniaturized. Right now, this involves, it does include actually some parts from Adafruit and SparkFun, so I think it'll be pretty easy for people to pick up. We're looking to make it feather compatible, and you'll be able to program it with CircuitPython. I've done a little bit of that, but I'm not good enough yet to quite be able to pull out all that functionality, but it's coming, so that'll be cool. Let's see about any other questions that we've got. Does it have an open API from Mohib? Mohib, you know this. We talked about this. We don't have an open API yet, but it's coming down the road. Someone says, I will need to transport 1 terabyte of information. It's a cure for a disease and Big Pharma wants my head for it. Help me out. Oh, yeah. This is something that actually we have addressed. Someone was asking about this on Instagram, I think. We do see a possible sort of secure data courier application for this. I think it'd be really cool. It might place you in danger, but hopefully you'd be able to take care of that on your own. We can't. We take no responsibility for anything anyone does with this, of course. Like, there's going to be a very hefty disclaimer on this. But as long as you don't overload it, I think things should be fine. So you say that you've got, what, 1 terabyte of information? That might be a bit much. It really depends on which model you get. So if you try to put 320 gigs of information in a 160 gig brain, that's not going to be stable. You're going to have like 80 gigs or 60 gigs of extra memory that is just sort of leaking into your brain, and that's not cool. You might have memory issues. We don't know. I have not tried this. I am not that adventurous. But this type of sort of hot swappable memory storage is definitely something that we are looking at implementing maybe by 2021. You're making the future from the house. I'm not sure what that means. Mohib says, have you experienced any loss of time or dissociation? No, except for that I'm still lazy and so I still lose hours in the morning. I am so sorry. Blake says, where do I sign up for beta testing? Basically, we're doing this thing where we want to get people who are really involved in the community and really engaged. So if you share with people and tag us, then you'll be basically bumped up the list for the limited beta that we're doing. It's a few spots only. I'm thinking 5. But later on in the year, we're thinking maybe around DEF CON or Hackaday SuperCon or Maker Fairs later on in the year, we'll be able to start doing some live installs at those events, and that'll be super cool. Especially once we get that sort of screw attachment, that'll be a lot easier. Maybe by Maker Faire Bay Area, but that's a little fast, and we want to make sure that we get some really good testing in before we do a more public release. So Martin says, in your head, zombie, zombie lyrics by R.I.P. I'm not sure what you mean by R.I.P. I thought that was a Cranberries song. Zombie, zombie, zombie. Yeah, anyway, it's a great song, and now I can listen to it in my head. Our friend, I believe it would be Yarosi, I'm not sure, says the original was released 20 years ago. That was just an idea. It's true The Matrix was released 20 years ago. Or, yeah, the first movie. And the cool thing about technology is that sci-fi really does inspire the future. So, yeah, I love that, that was 20 years ago, and now we're building it, and we get to sort of release it on the 20th anniversary. It's so cool. Xavier says, I want to participate if you agree. Totally! Yeah, share with your friends. We'll be watching to see who gets the most shares and things like that. Probably it's going to end up being people who already have sort of a strong following in the biotech community, both because we want to obviously get publicity and because we want people who already have experience thinking about these things and the moral implications thereof and things like that. Does your brain plug tingle? It doesn't anymore. While those anchors were dissolving, it definitely had a bit of sort of itchiness and tingling and other things that I won't divulge, both because of HIPAA and because it's gross. But yeah, at this point it's pretty good. So, someone says I'm not a good poker player. Not yet! Let's see. I wanted to have this attached to my temporal lobe. You do have limitations on where exactly you can place this. We put it in the back because it's close to your whole spinal cord, and that's basically where all the information travels between your brain and the rest of your body. There's a couple of filaments that do reach up to your optic nerve, and you have pretty good ear access, so most of the face stuff is taken care of. But yeah, it does have to be located pretty much back here. And so you can't connect it directly to all that stuff, but yeah. What size drill bit do you have to use to implant that massive thing? Do you just lay under a drill press? See, I'm not sure if you understand, like, where medical science is these days. Like, I had to do a little bit of dremeling on this thing, I'm not gonna lie, but the whole insertion process was extremely professional. I want to build an implant that replaces the eyes. We do see potential for this as an assistive device. Like, honestly, people at the forefront of biotech and biohacking are people with disabilities. They've been working on this stuff for ages and testing it out and requesting things that need to be built. And we want to definitely involve everyone who already has that kind of expertise. Oh, more inspirations. We have, let's see, what's this? Oh yeah, this is the neurospeculative thing. One of the artists that I admire a lot is Onyx Ashanti, who has been demoing and testing and building this programmable interface for his motions and senses to turn them into music. And it's basically this whole networked, wearable, 3D printed harness type thing that includes attachments for his head, for his hands, and things like that. And just an incredible person that I think is a huge inspiration for this project. Oh yeah, why did I bring this up? Something about Hannover Messe. Oh yeah, I think this was maybe introduced there. Doesn't matter. Anyway, if you're not familiar, Hanover Messe is going on right now, so if you're looking for ways to get involved with this type of technology for the future, not this specific project, but with other companies that might be doing similar stuff, go check that out if you're anywhere near Germany. That is going on right now. Super cool. More questions. Eyes with DRM. We are not really a fan of DRM. Or I'm not really a fan of DRM. I'm not using Wii because it's me and a machine, not yet anyway. I think that we do not want to have built-in digital rights management. We want people to be able to fix this themselves and work on it themselves. That's the whole point of open source. Mohib. Let's see. Blockchain technology. We don't really have blockchain tech in here yet. If we do implement that, we want it to be for a reason, not just because blockchain is hyped. We've got some more questions. All right, so how is it attached? We talked about that. Bobby Hinner on Instagram actually asked about, can I install it myself? That's going to be a big no. We would not recommend installing this on yourself. We do hope to run some installs with our team later at DEF CON or so, but no, at least not anytime soon. For one thing, it's really hard for you to reach back there, but we also want to do some more testing first, and we definitely recommend having someone do it who can see the back of your head, which you cannot yet. Maybe like once you're able to do the little swappable plugs. That would make sense. Is there a video of the transfer? Yeah, so that, not yet. As I mentioned, I have to be asleep while we're transferring information, and so no live demo yet. There's also some video that we have from the hospital, but we're like where the implantation was done at UCSF, but due to HIPAA constraints, I am not allowed to release that. And that's probably for the best because it's pretty embarrassing and kind of gruesome, honestly. Where do we draw the line, someone asks. Someone on Facebook actually had these moral objections. And first up, I want to say, I get what you're saying, but moral hang-ups delay our progress as a species. It's not like the robots are going to take over from our brains and like start using us as batteries for their own nefarious plans. That's not... I mean, you need to be able to distinguish reality from fantasy, basically. And when it comes to moral issues, there's a point at which you need to free your mind and embrace the future. Feel like it's about time to wrap this up. But let's see, is there anything I didn't quite get to? Problems so far, we had a little bit of a rocky installation the first time. Subsequent ones has gone faster as we figured out where all the connections go. I won't have to whip out the Dremel for future iterations. The neural interface is very delicate. Future ones, you'll just have to have that one implant, the base one, and then you'll be able to swap out the other modules as you please. Security, we have not faced any issues so far, but we want to make sure that we don't ever encounter that. V2, that's this guy, is going to be in limited beta soon. I think that's about everything. The general idea here is to sort of replace your phone instead of being able to hook up to it. So don't expect like a headphone jack. We might have a lightning cable insert or something like that. Yeah. All right. I'm going to double check for any other questions. Can you speak more about the process of uploading skills or complex information while sleeping? I'm going to be honest, I was asleep during it. I'm more of a hardware person than a software person, so I designed the plug and the jack. But when it comes to the actual, transfer of the data, I'm not sure what exact protocol they're using. But I'm excited to learn more about that and share it with you as time goes on. There are some things that I'm very curious about. Maybe I'll be able to just upload them into my brain directly in the future. Oh yeah, part of the expertise transfer is that we want to be able to upload with the module. So you know how like a lot of microcontrollers will come with a pre-installed demo that sort of teaches you how to use it, like the bare conductive touch board, for example. You can't get it in the mail, and it as soon as you power it on, it has these preloaded examples. You touch the sensors and they play these MP3s that tell you how to replace themselves and use the board. And so that's kind of what we want to do with this. We want it to ship with some built-in knowledge about how to use it and how to replace it. So hopefully I'll be able to get it that way myself. Mark says, boo DRM! We totally agree. Alright, that's about all I got for you. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you have an awesome rest of your MCU Monday. Be sure to share this for access to the limited beta. If you have friends who are interested, I would love to talk to them, especially if they have concerns, because we want to make sure that we listen to everyone as we continue developing this. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Ciao!